And Rey Mysterio, a pleasure to be joined by you. And we were just mentioning before the cameras were rolling there, the 2006 Royal Rumble. It's obviously Royal Rumble season now. We're in Houston, waiting for the big one tomorrow. And I guess the easiest place to start is 14 years ago, Miami.
Yeah.
Came in second, and you were last one there.
That's crazy. I can't believe I lasted that long. Wow. I mean, 29 other superstars, and me being number 30, and to have come out second and made it all the way to the end. And not to mention that I believe I still hold the record for being the record in time for being in there longer than any other superstar.
62 minutes or something, wasn't it? Something around that.
Yeah. I know Daniel Bryan, they're saying that he passed that record, but that was in Saudi, so that doesn't count. It has to be in the U.S.
Oh yeah, the 50 person.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
Did you tell him that straight away? So, no, by the way.
I haven't told them, but every time they make mention of Royal Rumble, I always say, Daniel's, he has to pass the record here in the U.S.
And the one you won, obviously, coming out second. Do you ever feel shortchanged that it's always, it came out second, but second's the same as first, right?
Well, you whatever entry you have to look at it like, you're lucky if you get number 30, but you might get tossed out as well. So, you always have to look at it like, I'm coming in here and I'm coming here to win. No matter if I'm number 1 or I'm number 30. And that's the mentality that I set foot in that ring that day.
How much about that day do you remember?
I have flashbacks of certain moments of the match. I do recall that it bought me a lot of time. Anytime I can get away from action going on or guys getting thrown out, I would try to curl up and go underneath the bottom turnbuckle and stay close to the post. So you can call it strategy, you can call it knowledge from being in the ring for so many years, but it worked for me. It worked for me, and of course the last 2 opponents that I threw out were memorable for me. Randy and Triple H. Yeah,
it's certainly a compliment. When you look at it now and the legacy. Randy Orton obviously still active, and you've had your matches with recently as well. But Triple H, like the legacy that he had, and 14 years later, you still look at that and you think, oh wow, nice to be involved in those moments, right?
Crazy. And if I'm not mistaken, Triple H was number 1, right?
I think so.
Yes, and I believe Triple H was number 1 and I was number 2. So to be in there that long, and with the legends like Randy and Triple H was, there was moments towards the end that I felt like, it's just not gonna happen. Like very minor flashbacks of, man, what do I have to do? But at the end of the night, I was surprised that I was the last one in the ring. So, in such a big moment, you feed off of your fans, you feed off the excitement, you feed off the adrenaline that's happening in the arena that night, and all of that was to my favor.
How much do you remember the noise in that arena? Because the momentum was with you so much at that point in time, and obviously Triple H and Randy were massive villains at the time, and so people were so behind you from the second you set foot in there.
It was historical for me personally. It was an opportunity that kind of fell in place with Eddie passing away shortly 2 months before that prior, actually a month and a half prior. Leading into the Rumble, there were so many mixed emotions, and I truly believe that the fans would see, and still to this day, Eddie's presence through me, somehow, some way, some form, and that really boosted up my morale, my intensity to make sure that this moment was the moment, for it to happen. So, like I said, it was a wave of just positivity that was on my side.
And the entrance coming out with the tribute to Eddie, the car.
Yeah.
When did you find out about that?
The day of, it was so hard because, still to this day, you could never surpass the feelings, the emotions that you feel for a lost brother. But at the same time, I asked myself, what would Eddie have wanted, and to keep his name alive? So that was definitely one of those moments where the name was still alive, his spirit was still there. He was probably cruising next to me in the lowrider when I came out to the arena, so it was such a good moment.
As good a moment as it was, and I remember watching it as a fan and just being, so invested in it. And you still, every single time I thought, surely they're going to keep going with it. This is the moment, and then the payoff was there. Did you feel like an extra pressure because you had the EG armband done that whole WrestleMania run with the Royal Rumble included? Did you feel an extra pressure to deliver to the name, or did you just feel so glad that you could hold that name with you for that moment?
I felt like I was being me. I don't think I've ever felt in a position where I don't feel like I'm doing what's best for me. But that moment was definitely, it was a non-pressure moment. It was a good moment. And again, I feed off my fans immensely. So to just be able to be representing Eddie, representing our style of lucha, which is lucha libre, it was incredible, man. Definitely the connection that needed to be there that night was there.
That connection you felt with everyone, you cared so much for him, clearly. Was it validating when you hear how much everyone else loved him and the fact that people got on board?
Yeah, I truly believe so. I hope that I met everyone's expectations for that night and moving forward, because that was just one phase of keeping the name of Eddie alive and his spirit, but you still had to go on to move to the bigger prize. That was just like, I just opened one door. Now I got to make sure both of them are open so I can just walk right in. And of course that led into that.
Yeah, and so the build up to WrestleMania, the hard work is with the Royal Rumble, right? And then the next day it starts all over again.
Yeah. My adrenaline was still kicking the day after. I want to say it lasted for a couple of days. Like, it was a moment that very surreal. Did this really happen? I mean, I was a kid. I grew up watching WWE, and the Royal Rumble was one of my favorite events of the year. It was the way to kick off the year. So it was very surreal for me to have become the winner and now moving on to a world championship match. Especially with my size, my weight, my heritage. There was so many things that I had to bring on board, on top of Eddie's name.
When you found out that this run was going to happen, did you feel like, because you've always been known as someone who's broken down barriers in terms of, like you say, your size and your style, and did you feel like that run was the start of the change for when the new styles came in? Because you look now, and any match you go in, you can see, right, that's Rey's influence, that's Eddie's influence, that's your generation of guys.
Yeah.
Did you realize at the time, wow, the style was going to change after this?
Not at the time, but throughout time, through my 4 years of WCW, and when I had the opportunity to enter WWE for the first time, I thought that was a big moment for wrestlers with my style of wrestling, with the same height and weight stature that I carry with me. I felt like that door was eventually finally broken. The mold is now, you don't have to be 6'5", 300 pounds. So that to me, that was the moment that, okay, now we just got to make sure we do work. And at the time, I don't think about this. Like, I don't think I got to make sure I pave the way for other guys like me to eventually have an opportunity. But now that I sit back and reflect on it and think about it, it's like, man, it's so good to have had a piece of this business, this sport, and to have influenced so many, you know, that's a true blessing.
Especially at that time of year as well, when it's not just WWE fans or wrestling fans that are watching. Royal Rumble is something that every day guy down the street has heard of.
Right.
Same with WrestleMania, and so you took the spotlight and you demonstrated this style and all of that while all these new eyes were looking,
right.
And all of a sudden, did you notice, you know, your status changing and how you were perceived in public and how many more people recognized you and everything like that?
Definitely, popularity really grew, and it just shows you how powerful television is. You know, how powerful this sport and this brand is worldwide. I remember when I first wanted to become a wrestler, I wasn't like I wanted to go in the ring and perform for the fans. I wanted to get cheered and loved by the fans, and that eventually started coming within time. But again, these are things that happened throughout my life that I don't reflect on unless we're talking about it like now, and it just feels so good to have accomplished something and to have your name stamped behind WWE as a name that will last forever. You know.
And the Royal Rumble, obviously the big prize is the big match at WrestleMania, which you then won, had the the fabled WrestleMania moment.
Yeah.
You hear it all the time now, but
Yeah.
yours really was, wasn't it? And the moment the company pinned its prized possession on you and kind of made you the face of the company,
Mm-hmm.
it must have been kind of overwhelming when you thought, oh, wow, hold on, I'm the big star now. Did you change how you acted, or you just, right, keep it real?
No, I kept it real. I've always kept it real. I don't think there's a moment in my life where I felt like I was the character Rey Mysterio. I've always been very humble, and I've learned from my parents. You know, my parents are very humble, have been throughout their whole life, and still to this day, you know, I carry my personality around as a person behind the mask. I don't try to impose or act better than anyone else. I think that's definitely a gift, because I have seen other superstars that, you know, believe the hype, and at the end of the day, you know, I have to take off my mask, I have to go home, and I have to attend a wife and 2 kids. So that's the beauty of this. I can have a double personality, but without losing my feet off the ground.
Was it nice being able to have the mask kind of as the character? Because you see lucha masks being sold, you know, all the time. You go to a wrestling event anywhere,
Right.
people are selling masks, but it's always that pattern. It's always that style. And even now, what do you think when you see that?
That's exciting. That's, again, these are trophies that I've been collecting throughout the 30 plus years of my career, that at the end of the day, when I hang up the mask, you know, I can go back and reminisce on everything that's happened. And not only that, but I can also sit back now and watch my son do what his father has been doing for the past 30 years and watch him grow and give him advice like I was given advice to at one point. But in Mexico, we always say there's 3 things that stand out from the Mexican culture: tequila, mariachi, and the sombreros. You know, and now we can add the mask to that part of the culture, the Rey Mysterio mask.
How quickly after you brought Dominic in, obviously he's been training for a number of years, and
Yeah.
we saw him in storylines when he was much younger, and see him in just recently as well. How often is he trying to steal those and those masks and try and get on screen with them?
I wish they would fit him. At one point, I do remember saying, my outfits are going to be intact, you know, I'm going to store them, and eventually if my son wants to wrestle, they're going to be here waiting for him. Never thought he would come out 6'2", 215 pounds. I'm still doubting my wife, and I just want to make sure that I'm the real father. But you know, he's got an idea of his own, and he didn't ask to be part of this world until he was 19. So he grew up around it. We did several storylines with him, and Eddie, of course, and I think that always stayed with him. Once he figured out what he wanted to do, and he asked, "Dad, can you train me? I want to see if I can make it in this business." I was like, wow. And I never forced it upon him. I never pressured him. You know, it was something that came so natural, so organic. So I think that's why he's a different type of breed, but he has something special to give. I feel it as a father. I have that instinct that he's going to be something special.
So you feel like that love, you know, that unconditional love for wrestling has never left you and has carried down to him? Because we look at you now, you come back to the WWE, and you had some time away, but you were still at it. You were still wrestling around the world. And I'm making an assumption here, but I'm assuming you've had your fair share of success, and there's nothing that's forced you to come back to the WWE.
No.
It's just a choice because you love it so much, right?
Yes, 100%. The moment I left WWE, it was just for me taking a break of traveling so much, of being on the road, of wrestling 4 to 5 days a week, and I needed that. My body needed that. My mind and my heart needed it in order for me to pick back up the passion that I once had, and it happened. You know, it happened, and I think it was best for business. It was best for WWE and the Rey Mysterio brand, and you know, it gave me the opportunity to reinvent myself and come back and, you know, still show, because I always step in the ring thinking, my mindset is, I got to go out there and I got to prove that I can still go. You know, I get a lot of feedback. Well, Ray, you don't have to do much anymore, man. Your name is already, it's done. You made your mark. But to me, when I feel like I have nothing more to prove, that's when I need to step back. So it's still exciting for me, and it's emotional.
Especially with how talented this young batch is. You know, some of the stuff they're doing these days is mad, and you must look at, I don't know, Ricochet doing 16 flips in a row and think, right, now I'll go and top that.
He was actually one of the first superstars that really impressed me. Again, when you're in this world and you come home, the last thing you want to do is watch wrestling or hear about other wrestlers. And I secluded myself very well. You know, I was home for 2-3 days a week, and it was family time specifically. But there comes a point where you got to make sure you see your competition, who's up and coming. And he was one of the guys that really stood out to me, and he's been doing incredible, man. I personally feel he is the next Rey Mysterio.
How much are you enjoying being in with the younger guys? Because, you know, I know you were wrestling around the world, and a lot of them you probably met along the way, but now they're here and you get a chance to test yourself against the new breed. How much are you enjoying that opportunity?
Very much. I enjoy giving advice if they ask for it. And I love having the best seat in the house when I'm teaming up with the Ricochet. You know, with the opportunity to be able to watch them perform, like perhaps at one day, you know, other superstars would look at me, go in the ring and do my thing. I always say that's the best seat in the house. It's better than front row because I'm right there in the corner. I get to see everything and see how perfectionist some of these guys are, and how their passion just pours in that ring, you know, and it's very exciting, very exciting. I definitely love teaming up.
Have any of them ever kind of lost their cool and given away the fact that you're the hero?
Yes, yeah, 100%. And to me, that's obviously 100% honesty, but it makes you feel good as a human being to have inspired someone in so many ways, and for them to tell you, I used to watch you when I was 8 years old, and now they're here sharing the ring with me. You know, as it's shocking and exciting for them, it is for me as well to just visually imagine that this kid was 8 years old and he was watching me on the TV, you know, and now he's in the ring. So it's a mutual respect feeling that I get.
When you rejoined the WWE, how long did it take you to kind of get into the groove of it again? Because the last, 6 or 7 months or so, you've been on fire and doing some of the best stuff.
Thank you.
You've been doing for a long time.
Thank
but
you.
I imagine when you first came back in, the travel starts again, and all the lights and all the things that come with being the big show. How long did it take you to get back into that?
So to have a schedule like the one I have now definitely keeps me up on my feet. It makes me want to be consistent, and you know, it helps me be in better shape as well. But it keeps that spark alive, you know, where I don't get too much and I don't feel drained. It's just enough to make me want to come back and get more.
Did you feel ring rust? Obviously you were still active, but there's a difference, right?
Yes. Still to this day, you know, I felt a little bit of ring rust. The matches I was having weren't the type of matches that I was having back in the day, you know, 15 minutes, 12 minutes, and wrestling every weekend. When you don't work as much, your body tends to react.
Makes the mistake of recovering, right?
Yes, and it's asking you, okay, what is this? Are we going into a new mode now? So we gotta tone it down. It took me a while, but eventually I'm at the point right now where I'm enjoying that 1 day a week and the one pay-per-view a month. And like I said, potentially a house show here and there, but it's not too saturated where I can train at home and wrestle when I have to go wrestle.
How fun is it working with Andrade? Because you two kind of are in the can't miss spot of Raw recently, aren't you?
Yeah.
Just brilliant matches again and again and again.
Thank you. There's definitely a chemistry there that I feel I had with Eddie when I was feuding against Eddie. Our backgrounds, our style, very, very similar. Being both second generation, so that has a lot to do with the connection we have in the ring, and to be able to be thinking like we're on the same page, both of us at the time, you know, and it's very rare that you get that. I've been blessed throughout my career that I've had that connection with many, Kurt Angle, Edge, RVD, Eddie, you know, in different styles, Batista, you know, but with Andrade, there's definitely something that clicks that's very, very unique, and I think he's the next top superstar in this company. If he keeps working hard like he has been, I think I just don't see why not. That's pretty much, you know, where he's destined to be.
How flattered were you to be given the opportunity to hold a title again?
Oh, it was beautiful. You know, anytime you have opportunities like being able to be champion and being able to represent the company in whatever division or whatever title you hold is a big responsibility. And I felt like I've had that from day one, you know, with the following that I have. It makes everything worth the wait until eventually you happen to get that prized possession, you know, which is what everyone streams for.
We were talking about Andrade before. Obviously, he came through NXT because it's sort of rapidly gone from being what it was, which was FCW kind of, and then FCW plus a game show, to now
being their own brand.
Yeah, and one of the hottest.
Yeah. The momentum was definitely headed that direction. When you have somebody like Triple H in charge, you know, and Shawn Michaels, it's just destined to not fail. They don't say, oh, this didn't work and just give up. They're the type that, you know, this is gonna succeed and it's gonna become its own brand like it is now. And the style of wrestling was completely different from what you were watching on Raw or SmackDown, creating their own stars. I just think that was needed, not so much for the network because of the content, but overall, I think it needed like a bit of separation to let fans know and opportunities for other superstars to eventually make their way in through WWE, through NXT, then eventually go into the bigger brands. But NXT is catching up. I mean, it's going to be hard to say who's going to be on top in a couple of years, you know, Raw, NXT, or SmackDown.
And William Regal, we were speaking to about NXT recently, and he says that what he believes is so good about NXT and what makes it unique is the fact that they really take styles from Mexico, the lucha style, and then the British style and the Japanese style, and they put it together in a kind of American package with some of the American style, but it's a truly global style. And do you see that global style is influencing other shows, including Raw and SmackDown, but the way people are putting on their events?
I definitely think so. It's funny because I was talking to Regal in November at Survivor Series, and my son Dominic was there. He was guiding Dominic with some tips and just helping him out with what to look forward to, you know. And we were talking about the clash of styles. It's exciting when you have something that's getting ready to blow up, but you just don't know what direction it's going. But it's a universal trend. It's something that if you see outside, if you go to wrestling events, you're gonna see this is like the new breed, the new style of wrestling that fans are falling in love with. And I compare it to back in the early to mid 90s when I was breaking through and having opportunities to be part of ECW or WCW. I'm pretty sure a lot of guys were going, what is this, man? This is way too fast. You got to slow down. I think that now of the new generation, you know, I think that they're just unbelievable. Hard for me to catch up.
And you're talking there about Dominic, and you said before that he asked you to train him. Do you look at the guys like Regal and Matt Bloom, who, you know, taking themselves to Orlando and starting to train everyone in that performance center and thinking, I wouldn't mind doing that?
I've never really put thought into it, but it's definitely something that I would probably enjoy doing.
When Dominic asked, did you think, and you had to start helping him?
I'm probably the hardest on my own son, you know, because I told him straight off the back, I said, I'll be the first one to let you know, if you're not ready, you're not ready. And we're not gonna push this, we're not gonna force it, we're not gonna rush it. You know, everything has to come within time. He surprised me, of course, very much from day one up until now. He keeps surprising me. He keeps doing things that I had never done in the ring. And when I see his height and his weight, I'm thinking, oh my God, there's something special here. But I think if after I hang up the mask, I probably wouldn't mind being around and helping out my own son and the future.
And you were helping out Cain Velasquez when he came in as well. We spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying you were an excellent teacher.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
but harsh.
yeah, we had a couple opportunities to train down in San Diego where my son trains as well, and he loved it, man. He's another guy that I think is gonna shock the world when he takes this on full time. I know he's been away right now for a minute, but once he sets foot back in that ring, he loves that lucha libre style, and he's very agile for his size. So I think he's gonna be a great one in the ring. I can't wait to see that full transition. You know, right now we just kind of seen teasers, but once he sets his mind and he wants to do something, he doesn't stop until he accomplishes.
And it's funny with him because I think a lot of the times when you get people crossing over into wrestling, people are critical that they're not real fans of WWE or they're just doing it for a quick payday.
Right.
But Cain has loved wrestling since he was a kid and watched WWE since he was a kid, and even popped up in Mexico in a mask, didn't he? I was seeing that on the internet.
Yes.
So his love is real.
Yeah, he claims that he's been a wrestling fan since he was a kid. You know, he grew up not too far away from San Diego. Across the border from Arizona. But he grew up watching lucha libre. You know, we talked about legends, Mexican legends like El Santo and Blue Demon, and you know that was like the first style of wrestling that he saw. So it stuck with him, and still to this day, like you said, I actually saw the show where he was wearing a mask and he was doing a lot of lucha moves. I was like, oh my, is that Kane really? But yeah, he's incredible, man. Like I said, I can't wait for him to take his position, like how he wants to take it, and just dominate the sport like he did in MMA.
Is it a good thing that he didn't live too close to San Diego? Because you'd probably share the same area code then, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, I definitely don't mind picking his brain when it comes down to learning MMA, because that's something that I've always wanted to pick up on, and the perfect combination between professional wrestling and MMA.
And so looking to the future for you now, the Royal Rumble tomorrow.
Ooh, we have to go there?
Yeah. Do you think you can last 62 minutes again?
Maybe not 62, but 63, perhaps. Why not break my own record, right? I mean, that's what you always strive for, to beat records or to gain trophies. I would not mind. My mindset is always prepared to do better than what I did yesterday. So I think it'll be really special if I don't know what number I'm at, but whatever number I come in, got to put in the work. Got to make sure that it counts. Not only for me, but for everyone.
How much just lying under the bottom turnbuckle would you do that?
Whatever I need to do. Whether it's 2 minutes, 3, or 10. I don't think I'd get away with
61.
Or 61, yes. But overall, this is probably one of the most exciting pay-per-views to kick off the year, you know, and it's just very emotional because there's history. There's a lot of history.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's worth mentioning that it's obviously in Texas, home of Eddie, and you had that amazing moment with the EG armband.
Yeah. You know, I always feel a presence of Eddie, you know, especially when the fans chant out his name and again, is relived through me in some way. You know, it's very very emotional because you can feel presence, and I felt that every time that I step in the ring and the fans want to see or want to hear something that Eddie did. Nobody better than Eddie. Nobody could ever top what Eddie accomplished in the ring. Such a natural, charismatic human being, and he took over the world once he set foot in that ring, man. It was just so impressive. I enjoyed so much feeding off of him, you know, and now, like I said, I still feel like he's next to me.
You look at the guys going through today and the girls. Sasha Banks came through with Eddie tights. Half the roster does a frog splash now, and every now and again you're treated to one of the shoulder shakes as well. His influence lasts now.
It stayed, and it's gonna stay. It's gonna stay forever. You know, these are legends of our sport. He's a legend in my heart, in my mindset, and he's much more than just a brother. You know, he was such a positive influence and figure in my life and my son's life, because I'm sure that being able to work with Eddie and his dad at a very young age, 7 years old, you know, he remembers a lot of those moments, but I'm sure that had a lot to do with him making a decision and saying, I want to be part of this business.
And now going into WrestleMania season.
Yeah.
Royal Rumble first, obviously. But you still got the energy for the grind. 3 big months.
Yeah, never stops. Never stops. Different time, different era. Of course, one thing leads to the next. But this is one of those moments where it's almost hard to say, you know, I worked hard the whole year to get to this moment. Because Rumble kicks off in January, it's the beginning of the year, and literally 3 months later, you have the biggest show, which is WrestleMania. So I think the best way phrase it is, I worked hard all of last year to get to this moment, you know, and it has to count.
And you've got the momentum with you, like I said earlier. These show stealing spots or segments in Raw almost every week. It's a good time to hit form.
Yeah, that's something that always has stayed with me. Being an innovator, being able to do stuff that a lot of superstars don't do. When something clicks in my head, and if I can envision it and it can happen, it's gonna be on TV as soon as possible. That's what keeps my spirit alive. That's what keeps my fans on their feet and wanting to see more Rey, you know. And subconsciously, I use that as well now towards my son, so he can feed off of the fans' feedback and know that he doesn't have an easy spot up and coming. He's got a hard spot, and he understands that he's not going to be another Rey Mysterio. He's going to be himself, but his dad keeps inspiring him.
Perfect. I think that's a fitting way to end.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I
you very
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you. Good conversation. Yeah.